Hello and welcome to the Creative Consciousness Radio Show on Blog Talk Radio. We are your hosts, Sam and Cabrini Greco, coming to you live from beautiful planet Earth. Throughout our conversation, we will be covering topics such as spirituality, global consciousness, metaphysics, and where you think we're truly headed. We have a great show to share with you today, so bookmark us and receive reminders, and you can visit our website at alltruenatural.com.
Well, good evening and welcome to Creative Consciousness Radio Show here on Blog Talk Radio. We are so pleased to be with you this evening. We have an incredible show coming your way. Today is July 14th, 2015, and we are embarking on an incredible new moon coming our way tomorrow. And if you haven't already noticed the up in energy happening because of our Cancer moon, just allow yourself to open your heart and really receive the inspiration and the heartfelt feelings that you're being guided to. Our show this evening and every Tuesday, Thursday evenings from 7 to 8, we host individuals that are living spiritually purposed lives. And these individuals come from all various parts of the world on planet Earth. And they are living their passion and what they're called to do. And many of these individuals are working in the community at large, really assisting humanity in becoming more aware of themselves and the potentiality that exists within each and every person that they work with. So we are so thrilled to host and support these individuals that are really making significant changes, bringing new information, whether that's in the medical fields or the counseling fields or the spiritual fields, the arts, dance communities, and so on and so forth. So you can visit our website at oneheartoneloveonespirit.org. We are a nonprofit organization, and we do our work full-time. We create different venues to reach the community, whether that's through art classes, or different healing modalities that we work directly with individuals and groups. And also we bring forth individuals through a Creative Consciousness newsletter, and we create different venues throughout various parts of the country that support individuals living spiritually purposed lives. So with that, we want to thank you for being with us this evening, and we want to thank you for holding the space in our chat room. We do have a call-in number. If you would like to call in, if you're having difficulty connecting with us online, you can call in and listen live to our show wherever you are on planet Earth by calling directly 267-521-0151. Also, if you are in the chat room right now and you do have some questions that you'd like to ask our guest this evening, feel free to type them in, and we will get to the questions probably midway through our interview this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn the show over to my incredible husband, who will be introducing our guest this evening. And let's have a great show, folks.
All right, Brini, thank you for that great introduction. I'm going to start off our show with introducing our guest this evening, reading a little biography on him, and away we go. So Rick Barrett, author of Finding You in a World of It. Finding You in a World of It. Years ago in Cambridge, a friend of Rick's gave him a copy of a famous book by the Hasidic philosopher Martin Buber. The title of this down-to-earth and humorous guide to living life to the fullest reflects Buber's distinction between the I-it and the I-thou dynamic. Rick brings his background in Chinese martial arts and polarity therapy to bear on how to engage fully with life, using this philosophy of Buber along with other traditions as a starting point. Real life consists of meeting, not just experiencing. Visit Rick's website at rickbarrett.net, rickbarrett.net. You can also read about Rick's works at taichialchemy.com. Rick, welcome to the show.
Happy Bastille Day, Sam.
Likewise, my friend.
I'm delighted to be here. It's a real honor to be able to talk to you on the show. A big fan of what you and Cabrini are doing, and I'm happy to contribute in any way I can.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to touch base on your books, like these projects that you have out there for people to read and, you know, sharing your gifts. So let's talk about, you have two books out. One is called Finding You in a World of It. I love the title. And the next one is, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Taiji Chuan.
Taiji Chuan. It's Taiji Chuan. Yeah.
Taiji Chuan, Through the Western Gate. So pick either one, Rick, and we can go off and start talking about them.
Okay, great. Let's start with the first one, Taiji Chuan, Through the Western Gate. Taiji Chuan is the Chinese pronunciation of Tai Chi, what we more familiarly know in the U.S. as Tai Chi. And it was born of a wondering how this stuff worked. I was able to experience a lot of really unusual phenomena, both for myself, but also seeing it in other people, other practitioners, particularly those who had been doing it a long time, that defied any explanations that I could find in Western science. So I had to kind of look a little deeper and peel back below the surface to find out exactly what was going on. The Western Gate in the title is the collective assumptions that have sort of arisen over the last, say, 300 years in the West, which have slowly condensed our concept of reality into a very solid mass that is can be described as scientism, that is a worship of science for its own sake, as an explanation of everything that is real in the world. And in doing that, we have to eliminate a large part of what is actually going on in order to fit it into this very narrow perspective that is afforded us through the scientific method. So I was through the Western Gate means, okay, what's beyond this Western Gate? And what I discovered was a way of talking about the body-mind as a physical, energetic, mental, and spiritual phenomenon, rather than just this description of us as ambulant bags of water that are somehow driven by chemical processes.
Right.
So that was the essence of that, and what I came up with was that our view of how we move in the world, how we function in the world, is actually kind of the opposite of what's going on, and particularly in terms of higher level internal martial arts. And what I found was that we are at our peak, when we're in the zone, when in the flow, we are actually relying more on the connective tissue system, which unites us into a whole body energetic experience that brings us into a state of wholeness. And when that happens, we take on qualities that are unavailable to us in our more fragmented state. And the connective tissue system is the only system in the body that touches every cell. And whenever it is activated in its wholeness, it takes on the qualities of a liquid crystal matrix. So it becomes more of an electronic phenomenon rather than a purely physical one. And then communication happens virtually instantly throughout the whole system. So then we are able to do cool stuff.
Incredible. And so this book, it basically explains all this phenomenon.
Yes, and also gives some very practical ways of accessing that. One which is a key, and I'll get to it in a little bit, that for bringing about a state of energetic coherence. So if you think of your body as a collection of, say, roughly 70 trillion cells, and each of them has their own energy pattern, their own survival impetus, and to get 70 trillion of anything together and function,
wow,
to be able to walk down the street and chew gum at the same time is a rather miraculous feat. And the better we're able to do that is the more coherent we become. Actually, the reverse of that. The more coherent we become, the better we're able to do that. The better we're able to organize all these different diverse processes and make them function as one. And so there's a technique that I developed for heightening energetic coherence very fast, and I came about it through the martial arts, and particularly through competitions in the martial arts, where I had to learn to access these higher states while people were trying to knock me down, and so that was the fun part, and to be able to then find a language for that later.
Yeah, what incredible information you're sharing with us tonight. Is your book is it instructional as well?
It is. It is instructional. It's not a strict Tai Chi, this is how you do the form kind of a book. It's more instructional in the sense of this is how you access these states, whether you do Tai Chi or not. It's designed for anybody who basically has a body and wants to make it work. One of the qualities of Chinese internal martial arts and also the energy healing that I've been doing both for over 35 years. And one of the qualities that both these things have is that you slow things way down in both the energy healing and in the Chinese martial arts. And when you do that, you notice things that are not readily apparent at faster speeds.
Wow.
So you start to see things like, for instance, say if I'm holding someone's head and feeling into their cranial rhythm. Now, this is something that very few people actually even consider that you have a cranial rhythm, but there is a very distinct process that occurs in your craniosacral system that is one of the most fundamental processes in the whole body-mind. And whenever you attune that, then you create these opportunities to move into altered states of consciousness, but also to bring the whole body-mind into this really heightened state of functioning that is that we lose by getting jarred around by life, basically. So say I'm there holding someone's head, and maybe 20 minutes will go by, and there'll be no movement, obvious movement, but I will be able to notice the significant movements of, say, the different bones in the head, in the skull. We'll be able to. There'll be a pulsing that occurs there. Anyway, these are things that you notice whenever you slow the way down. It's very akin to meditation, where if you're sitting there for hours counting your breaths, you're going to start to notice stuff that you don't notice if you're, just watching TV, say. Mm-hmm. So and one of the most important lesson I learned from decades of slowing your way down is that the magic comes from conscious, focused participation with your whole being. Not just by showing up and taking notes, nor by amassing a storehouse of techniques and information, but it's about getting involved fully in what you're doing, being able to transform and being transformed by what it is you're doing. So that if you're moving to the state of participatory consciousness, you can access abilities and information that are not available when we are detached from what's going on. And this kind of leads into my second book, which is Finding You in a World of It, because that detachment is the world of it that I'm talking about there.
Oh, incredible information. Now, what would you tell someone who's kind of interested and doesn't really know anything about, or knows very little about Tai Chi or what you're bringing to the forefront here? What can you tell someone who's taken some interest in it right now, maybe perhaps listening on the radio show?
Well, first thing is to get involved. Just to find something that stirs your passion, find some access door and start playing around. I'm sure, like you and Cabrini, we've probably monkeyed around with all kinds of things in our over the decades, right? We've played around and looking into different places to find out where the truth was hidden, a way of explaining life that resonated more to the core of our being. And so I'd say, the first part is just find something that you love and just participate in it fully. In terms of the language that I'm using, it's you could do worse than reading these two books. It's they're very accessible to the layperson, and it brings some of the more difficult and esoteric concepts into a very common language. A lot of what I'm trying to do is to find a language that enables us to talk about these things so that we can build a platform, so we don't have to start over again each time to know what we're talking about, and to be able to share these experiences and insights and states of being, and be able to delineate between very subtle distinctions that are kind of invisible to someone who isn't taking the time and the putting the focus on these things. So it allows us to make these distinctions, and I've found that the more insubstantial the topic, the more our language has to be precise in order to be able to make those distinctions.
Absolutely. Let's get into your other book here. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to move in that direction. So, yes.
Sure. Yeah, let's get into your other book. And before we get into it, I just want to know, I love how Buber's distinction between the I-it and the I-thou dynamic. Does your book touch on those two aspects?
It does. And in actuality, even though the book was translated originally as I-thou, he actually preferred or it's more of an I-you language. And it comes from the German ich und du, and du is a second person familiar.
Right.
And I also prefer that. It's I find that thou tends to create the opposite effect for me. If I call someone, hey, thou, it's too formal, right? Whereas whenever I'm speaking to you, and he uses a capital U as do I, to indicate that soul-to-soul connection that marks this state, and makes a distinction between the you, the lowercase u, which is just that person I'm talking at, and right. So so we get that distinction. So the Buber idea, as you mentioned before, it's something that an older friend gave to me when I was just in high school, and the book originally, and it blew my mind. I didn't understand it, but I knew that there was something happening there that was far beyond my ability to comprehend at the time. But it planted seeds that I've been, continuing to this day.
Amazing.
If you just say the finding you in a world of it, just that language, it has a certain healing quality to it right there. You just repeat those words, and everybody kind of knows that there's a whole lot more it in the world than there is you. There's a whole lot more opportunity to see things as objects, as concepts. We live in what's called the information age, and it's for all the blessings that it bestows. There's a prevailing understanding that everything can be converted into information. In fact, scientists talk like that. They say, "Oh yeah, everything can be expressed as a 1 or a 0." And to me, that kind of misses the whole point. Even that, when we do that, we're representing something. We're drawing a map of something. When we make it, when we make a description of something. So anything that we can think about, imagine, dream about, or convey in any way, communicate about, has to be objectified in order to do that. For me to come up with a concept and say, oh, I'm talking on a phone. What's a phone? I have a story about a phone, and I know phones, and I know other phones, and I can fit that into the broader story. And I say, okay, even though I'm sitting here in New York City, I'm talking to Sam, who is hundreds of miles away, and this is all part of the story, and it gives me a context in which we can speak. But more important than that is the communication and the contact that you and I are having. Even though we're separated by hundreds of miles, you're right here. You're right here. There is no space. There is no time. There's just the intimate connection of you and I, and we're including anybody else who happens to be listening to this broadcast in our field. So everybody that is participating in this is part of the you that I am speaking to. So Buber talks about, he says, it's not you and you and you and you. It's all just you, one you. There's only one you, and it is the eternal you.
That's a great view. That's incredible. Yeah,
and when you move to there,
I can only imagine how mind blown you were in high school at a young age, reading those things.
Yeah, because up to that point, I was very locked into a very scientific, rational perspective. Everything could be, we're going to figure this whole thing out. We just get a big enough computer and we'll just sort everything out, right? We'll come up with a theory and we'll solve all these things and get all the the square pegs and the square holes and then suddenly this comes in and it's like, oh no, this is there's a mystery that far surpasses anything that we can conceive of.
Right.
And we access that mystery through authentic soul-to-soul connection. And to me, that is the bedrock of my philosophy, is that no matter what I can say about I mean, you can actually you can say it very simply that whatever you think something is, it's not that. Any representation that I make of the world is always going to be less than the thing itself. But that soul-to-soul connection that you and I have right now, that's the only thing going on right now. There's nothing else going on in the whole world but you and I.
Right. Yeah.
And when I meet you, I don't care, and the you can be a tree, it can be your dog, your cat, it can be it can be space, it can be God, it can be an angel, whatever it is that you want to say you to, whatever you want to address. And this is true prayer to me, is when you're addressing something soul to soul like that you actually are transformed. We enter into an entirely different operating system in terms of our ability to experience, our ability to be in the world, because there's an experiential realm, which is an object-based operating system, and that's where everything is an it and everything is an object, and we have a story connected with it, and we can organize things in terms of size and number and color and shape and qualities. And then there's this whole other operating system which is non-objective. There are no objects. There's no it anywhere. There's no thought. There's just now. And in that state, there's that's where the magic happens.
Incredible. Can you take us how this book, how recent have you completed this book, and can you tell us the process in creating it? Can you take us through it for yourself?
Sure. It was a natural outgrowth of the first book, because we're going beyond the Western Gate now. We went through the Western Gate. Now, okay, how is it to live beyond the Western Gate? Beyond that set of assumptions that we've drawn a lot of comfort from. That we we figured out what gravity is. We figured out what energy is, stuff like that, but we haven't. And this takes us beyond that, and we start to play around with the mysteries that still surround us. And I guess the power of meeting, I guess what I'm calling is meeting, is this contacting soul to soul here. the power of meeting was demonstrated to me in a martial arts tournament I was in. I was about 47 at the time, and I was playing for a national championship. And I had been playing in Tai Chi push hands, which is a particular Tai Chi martial arts exercise. And I've been doing that for a number of years. I'm playing as a middleweight, so I was 173 pounds. And I said, okay, to really challenge myself and to really explore the possibilities inherent within this, if I'm doing this right, I can play in the unlimited weight class against anybody, and I will then see what I really have. So I went up and I entered the unlimited weight class at the U.S. Quoshu Championships, and I had like 6 matches that day, and it was exhausting because I was going up against guys who were 50 to 100 pounds heavier than me, and were all skilled martial artists, and all were stronger than me and bigger than me, and somehow I just kept on winning and kept on going, and then I got to the championship, and I was going up against the reigning national champion at the time, and he was 6'6", 275 pounds, and a highly experienced martial artist. And it was, at that point, if I'm thinking in terms of him as an it, I get very afraid because there's no way I can match up against this guy. It's David and Goliath there. But instead, I met him as my partner, my co-creator in this exquisite dance that we were about to perform. And, part of the dance included trying to knock each other down and throw each other around and things like that. But we had a mutual agreement that this was not only acceptable, but actually a beautiful expression of our love for each other. And if I went to it with that perspective, suddenly I was empowered way beyond anything that I'd experienced previously. And I came out of that, and it was funny because after I beat the guy, he was laughing, gave me this big hug, and lifted me over his head like I was a baby. He was just like, I was like a child, and he just picked me up and lifted me over his head, And but it that struck me because, like, holy smoke, what I just did was something I had previously considered to be impossible. And my teacher at the time, he said, that was impossible, what you did there. I've never seen anybody else do that. So it was a huge learning experience, and that kind of prompted this search for the language to describe what happened there.
Yes. And
I had to go back to Buber then.
I see.
So that was that meeting, right? We're getting into into that feeling there. So that's what prompted it, and then it was a process that took me several years to bring about in a language which I was comfortable with.
Wow, that's incredible. The connectedness you had with him, when we turned it over from it to the IU prior to that match, and when he started laughing afterwards, that kind of gave testimony that he was in that connection as well. Probably not completely conscious. Would you agree to that?
Yes. It was, it was a mystery to him, like, what's going on here? But he's a beautiful guy and an enlightened soul himself, and he was, he was perplexed, like, how is this even possible? But he was amused by it at the same time. He was amused by the mystery of it, and we really bonded at that point. So
tell us a little bit more about your latest book. Anything else that you can add with it?
Oh, sure. I can go on for a while on that. But the key idea here is that when we convert something into an it, when I think about, let's say if I were to think about Sam right now, so suddenly I've severed that intimate connection that you and I are having. right? I'm thinking about Sam, and Sam has his voice on the phone, and, you know, wonder what Sam looks like, and da-da-da. I'm starting to tell a story about Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Sam is now an it to me. Sam is an object in my world, and consequently, I become an object too. Because in the world of it, everything is an object, including yourself. Mm-hmm. So when people get like really self-critical, they're turning themselves into objects. They're maybe wagging a disapproving finger at themselves and saying, "Oh boy, you're really lame there. Oh, you're such a loser." Whatever it is whatever that internal script is that causes them to, to contract and to feel lesser than. So that anytime I think about something, I have to run that through my nervous system and come up with a summary of what just occurred. Anytime I experience anything, I'm summarizing what just happened and coming up with the headlines. Now, our conscious mind has a very narrow bandwidth. Mm-hmm. It can handle about 20 to 40 bits per second, which is not a lot. And then whenever you think that the senses are pulling in millions of bits per second, and then we go beyond that to those things which extend beyond the five senses, we've got perhaps billions or trillions of bits of information that are coming in every second. And to convert that down to 20 to 40 is, it's like at least 1 million to 1 reduction in our ability to actually be with what's going on. So when we are stuck in our heads, stuck in our minds, we are basically looking at life through a keyhole and trying to figure out what's going on there, by just the tiny bit of information that's coming through that keyhole. And we've gotten pretty clever at making some pretty educated guesses at it. But the reality is we're missing, most of what's going on in any moment. And consequently, the story that we tell ourselves is always going to be a hodgepodge of old ideas, previous experiences, stories that we've either inherited from other people or stories we've made up ourselves. But that's okay, because we're storytellers. Humans are storytellers, and we love to do that.
Right.
And right. I'm telling a story right now.
I found it very interesting how you said our conscious minds has a limited bandwidth, and a limited amount of information can be processed. And I just reverted right back to your other book, your first book here, Taiji. How do you pronounce that one more time?
Taiji Chuan.
Taiji Chuan Through the Western Gate. It brought me to that book where you were telling us through slowing ourselves down, we can access different mind states, and hence our bandwidth increases. So it's incredible how the bandwidth increases. Okay, while we slow down, it's such a beautiful interplay between those two.
Yes, great point. It's kind of paradoxical.
Right.
We think,
right.
if I rush around more, I'll get more done. It's like, nah, actually, if you slow it way down and just open your eyes and ears and just kind of pay attention to what's going on and actually relate to the environment, then you are moving into a multi-sensory consciousness, where you're no longer limited by the five senses and the four-dimensional language that we use to describe the limitations of our five senses. We've got this nice little four-dimensional language that talks, three of space, one of time, that conveys a particular view of the world, a particular view of what's going on. But it's not what's going on. It's a created reality. It's a reality that gives shape to something which is virtually infinite. And the multidimensional consciousness accesses things beyond those four dimensions. Then we're starting, whenever you meditate, whenever you're engaged in a peak experience, when you're on the flying trapeze, and in that moment, it's like the whole world stands still, and all that's there is just you and flying through the air. Those moments, we are in a multi-dimensional consciousness, and we're opening up to the miraculous at that point. We're opening up to being able to connect up with something much bigger than we are.
Let's go back to the I-it relationship there, that perception. Would you consider that an illusion? Are we stepping into illusion when we start perceiving the I-it experience? And would it be an illusion, or would you consider that also a limited view of everything?
Well, it's a tricky word, because anything that we can represent as something else, anytime we try to substitute a word for the thing itself, then we're in the world of illusion.
Okay.
We're saying, and that's the key to this I-it thing. I-it is not a bad thing. Telling stories is not a bad thing. The problem comes whenever we actually start to believe that stuff.
I see.
We start to believe our stories and think that this is the only way that this can be seen. It's then we get into the world of illusion. Then we get into Maya. Maya. One interpretation of Maya is not that.
What, Maya as in which? What do you mean by Maya?
Maya as in the Indian, the Sanskrit term.
Oh, okay.
One translation that I read for it, which I love, is not that. And and what it means is whatever you think something is, it's not that. But as long as you know that, you're fine. Maya is the game. Maya is fun. It's play. It's Leela. It's being able to to enjoy your life, to live a full and beautiful life. It's whenever we start to actually think that the way I'm perceiving this, like say someone doesn't call me on my birthday, and I'm really disappointed, and they forgot my birthday, and I'm so sad, and they must hate me, and I get into this whole story about it, and and I'm really absorbed in my particular take, my story here, my Maya, my illusion. But the reality is, actually the guy was in the hospital that day, and I was so concerned about me and the terrible thing, the terrible hurt that I'm experiencing, I didn't even bother to call Joe and find out that he had been hit by a truck.
Oh, that's right. It's incredible how we can place ourselves depending on what we choose to see. It's almost it amazes me how we can live out a very long time in illusion as well.
Yeah. So illusion is basically it's a story that you believe a little too firmly. You're and in the words of Alfred Korzybski, the map is not the territory that it represents. So words are maps. And and if we think that the word or the symbol that says dog is a dog, we've got a problem. Or pizza. If you think you've got the word pizza is a pizza, then you're going to have a hard time. You're not going to get very full eating words. Right.
Let me ask you something, Rick. I want to go back to that match that you had with this person who was almost twice the size of you. Would you consider that the moment you chose to look at him as part of yourself, the IU, encompassing that, would you think that this could be a threshold to telepathy as well? if two people are engaged in it fully, consciously within each other?
A threshold to what?
Telepathy?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Because that happens when we resonate together at a very high level. So then the boundaries that separate us start to dissolve. And that's that multi-dimensional consciousness that I was talking about. Once we start doing that, then information passes between us very rapidly and seemingly across distances. But I mean, it goes beyond that. I was reading a report recently of experiments done at Penn State University in 2006 and 2007, where a Chinese Qigong master was controlling cancer cells in a laboratory in Penn State. Okay, and that is the professor who was running the experiment did was he placed a test tube with living cancer cells on on three different shelves, and one of them was the control. Actually, the control was in another room. Then there was on one shelf was the cancer cells that this master was going to kill, and the other one was they were going to be unharmed. And he did this from 3,000 miles away. He was in California at the time, having never been on the campus of Penn State, having never seen the cancer cells. So what he did, he was able to kill the cancer cells in one test tube and spare the ones in the other.
Wow.
And he did this over a period of several months. So they charted the way the cancer cells were being destroyed, which I found utterly fascinating. And also his description about it afterward, and he said, yes, while I was doing it, I had to convince the other cancer cells. He had to talk to the cancer cells that he did not want to kill, and convince them to stay put, because they wanted to go. They wanted to go the other way too. They wanted to follow the first one. But he actually was having this. So he was having communication with these cells from 3,000 miles away. And I think that we can put that in the category somewhere of telepathy at that point, and psychokinesis or something. It's certainly interaction with something at a distance and effect at a distance that is certainly ungoverned by any of the ordinary laws of physics as we know them.
Right. Just the communicative relationship between the man and the cell. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. And there are a number of experiments about that. There are that where you can, able to contact just by changing your state of mind, you're able to create effects. The people at HeartMath Institute who did one where they were unwinding DNA molecules that were in a test tube remotely, just by creating a heart centered field with intention. So they're able to use that to do that. So it kind of brings up something I love to talk about, which is love-based martial arts, and this is kind of what I've been had its inception probably at that tournament. That is, we are empowered by love, and we are disempowered by fear.
Right.
And a lot of martial arts are fear-based martial arts. Mm-hmm. And so what I emphasize is this concept of love-based martial arts, and that is, if we can meet with our whole being in a state of wholeness, then we are able to, A, take on qualities that we do not have in our more fragmented psychic state, and B, we're able to interact with this other being to create a solution that is the best one possible under the circumstances for all concerned. And that is the idea. It's not like, can I smash this person? Can I protect myself from being smashed? It's not a, how can I resolve this situation so that everybody wins? And that's the essence of a love-based martial art.
Incredible. The power of love expressed in different ways. There it is. So, Ray, can you tell us how people can get a hold of you? I mentioned your website and your two websites earlier, but can you tell us how people can get a hold of you?
Sure. You can reach me, I guess, through the website. Call me Rick at rickbarrett.net. That's 2 R's, 2 T's. And there you can. That's probably the most efficient way. I also wanted to mention I got something coming up in September, the 21st annual Tai Chi Alchemy in Sedona, Arizona, and this is another of those magical events that you're kind of led to happening, to making happen. I went to Sedona back in the early '90s and was blown away by what a magical spot it was. Beautiful, and I said, "Hey, this would be a great place for a Tai Chi event." And I put it together, and lo and behold, it's 21 years later, and it's still going on. And
that's great.
People gather from all over the place, and it's September 19th to 21st, and you can find out more about it on my website, and that will give you an idea. And also, you can. I recommend people go to my website and check out the writing that I have there. There's a lot of blog posts, articles that I've written over the years that are available. You can see that. You can also go check out my YouTube channel, and that you can access that through the website also, because there's a lot of demonstrations. You'll see cool stuff that you can do with this energetic coherence. Things like you'll see a demo there where I got 5 people pushing me over, and I'm standing on 1 foot trying to push me over, and I'm standing vertical, and the energetic coherence allows me to access the energy of the earth and basically the big chi, and it empowers me to do something which most people would consider to be rather remarkable. But it becomes it's something that is not only learnable, it's teachable, it's learnable, and it's actually fairly easy to access. So it's
easy, and we consider it's very natural. It's a very natural feeling to access. It's not a foreign thing to us.
Exactly. In fact, you could say that you're returning to your native state. You're returning to your true being. Do we have time to do a little exercise?
Well, we have approximately 8 minutes.
Okay. Well, this will only take probably maybe less than a minute.
Sure.
So, okay, and just give you the setup. The energetic coherence I'm talking about, that state of wholeness, is, as I mentioned before, was the ability to access this through the connective tissue system. And one of the other things that I was doing in that match against Dale, the guy the big guy, was accessing through this connective tissue system. And there's a technique that I developed in my tournament days that I found had broader application, and that is you can very quickly find your energetic coherence by pointing your index finger or fingers, and so I'd like to try it right now, because one of the things it does, one of the qualities that it has, is it creates a state of instant meditation. That is, whenever you get energetically coherent, it calms the nervous system and quiets the mind and brings you into the space between thoughts. Mm-hmm. So if we just take a moment here and just ask anybody who's listening to sit back and put your hands in your lap, or if you're standing, just stand calmly, take a deep breath, and then point and reach with your index fingers. And when I say reach, you're just like, with the amount of effort it would take to flick a light switch. And notice that within seconds, there's sensations in your hands, tingling, pulsing, maybe heat, a sense of fullness. Now notice your mind. Take a look at your mind and notice your mind has gotten very, very clear and calm. There's just now. And what we've done together here is enter the space between thoughts. We're in a non-objective state of consciousness. There's just now. And then the thoughts will come back and you can relax your fingers and point again. And when you point again, everything gets calm again. Instant meditation. And whatever form of meditation you do, if you set it up with this, it will go much faster. Because the toughest part of any meditation is that period where you're trying to clear your mind and settle in, and it takes a while to get to the fun part. But this takes you to the fun part in seconds. And the beautiful thing is you can meditate for 5 seconds. You can meditate for 10 seconds.
Yes.
And you can do it anytime, any place. You can do it standing, sitting. You can even do it driving a car, because unlike some forms of meditation, this makes you more alert. You're more responsive to the world around you. And as I said before, I was doing this while I was competing in tournaments. So it brings you into that heightened state of coherence where you can access your hidden powers.
Well, there you have it, folks. Rick Barrett here with us, Creative Consciousness Radio Show. Rick, we have about 3 minutes left. Usually what we ask our guests at the end of the show is, what is your message to humanity? What would your message be to all of humanity?
My message to humanity?
Yeah. Let's have it.
Okay, all right.
It's a little loaded, but the question.
Well, actually, that's something I've given a bit of thought to, because it has to do with participating in life. That even, if you're a spiritual person and you get caught up in the story of being a spiritual person,
mm-hmm.
then you're not participating anymore. You're on the outside looking in. So it's okay to tell the story. It's okay to live the story, but just know that's what's going on, and know that there's this other thing where the reality is the world is actually happening, where the event is occurring, and you can actually be part of that. Be part of that event, because that is where, as Buber said, that's where we are most authentic. That's authentic living. That's where we actually tap into life as it really is, not how we're representing it to ourselves.
Well, thank you so much, Rick, for this evening, for being on our radio show. I'm going to hand
over. Thanks to you.
Thank you, yes.
Cabrini, for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Just stay on the line here, and what I'm going to do, folks, is just hand over the microphone to Cabrini as she closes our show. I bid you a blessed night, everyone, and Cabrini, the mic's all yours.
I wanted to thank Rick for bringing the information to the airwaves today about the I and you, and the idea of no separation between us all. And I really did appreciate your focus and your guiding here today, Rick, with the pointing of your index finger. I participated with this, and I really did find that this really did give me an immediate reflection and a peaceful state of mind. So that was just a wonderful tool that you brought forth to our listeners today. We would hope that you would be on our show again at another time.
I would love that.
I think the information that you bring forth to our listeners is, real practical, and that they can apply these various tools of living in their own awareness. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your knowledge here.
Thank you. I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and you guys are fantastic.
Oh,
and I'm certainly going to pass the word about your wonderful show.
Thank you so much. And for those of you that are listening, we're here every Tuesday and Thursday, but we are taking a break. Our next show will be live here on the first week of August, which will be August 4th with Augie Nost. And Augie is a author as well, and he is also, a spiritual investigator. And he joins us monthly for the first show of every month, and he brings forth knowledge from his diversified background of living in our now in real practical ways of using our own potential. So we'd like to invite you back with us on August 4th and join us on Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. And Rick, we'll be glad to have you on our show again in the future. And to all our listeners, we're just going to send you a big heart wave of love. There is no separation, and we all can be in that heart-centered field, as Rick said tonight, and join in the unification of soul, just with our intention, our focus. So everyone, have a great night. We're going to leave the show off. And, Rick, if you can just stand by, we'll be right with you. And we're going to leave the show off with some beautiful music from Jim Wafer. Now, Jim is a bell drum maker out of New Zealand, and he tunes his bell drums to 432 hertz, and he also creates lovely sounds. So with that, everyone, you have a wonderful evening, many blessings, and we'll see you on the path.